guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know who's B, it's your girl Kylie coming at you with a new video. Today we're going to be talking about Love is Blind Season 6, Episodes 7 through 9. And let's get right into the video. So we pick up where we left off, where Jimmy and Chelsea... so Chelsea felt some type of way that Jimmy was talking to AD, even though he came over to her, several times throughout the night and reassured her, but she still felt that she was not being reassured, that he still liked her or whatever, and things like that. He wasn't being touchy-feely with her. So she was upset about it. He apologized, whatever. So they were spending their last days on their honeymoon trip, and the episode was called Silence Speaks Volumes. So in this episode, we see Kenneth and Brittany. They go on this little boat ride, and there was quite a time that they were just quiet, and then until some dolphins in the background start making an appearance, they Kenneth finally starts speaking. So it was just okay, that's showing something bad is gonna happen that episode. Clay and AD, their conversation was basically Clay was feeling he might let AD down in a relationship, where he might, do some type of act of infidelity, and it's just a reoccurring topic in the later episodes. Amy and Johnny, they seem pretty cool in their honeymoon. Nothing happened, important during their honeymoon situation. Then we get to Laura and Jeramey. Laura and Jeramey, Jeramey was upset. He had up to hear Laura, because Laura, even though she did get out of this, taking the blame, it was basically Jeramey saying oh, it's all on him. But for even bringing that up to Jeramey in the first place and telling him that, you still want to blame. And then also when you dismissed AD on her feelings of, so she was oh, it's just a joke, she's just mad at Jeramey for even bringing it up. So Jeramey, when he came back to the hotel, he never spoke to Laura, kind of shut her out, iced her out. So he apologized for doing that and not communicating with Laura, and he took full responsibility and accountability for it. So they moved on, they moved along, they're still good. So they finally get back to North Carolina. Their honeymoon phase is over. They're going back to North Carolina. So everybody's seeing their apartments, seeing how they live, what's the tea, what's the sketch. And we see Kenneth and Brittany. Kenneth gets his phone back, and as soon as he gets his phone back, he's just fully immersed in his phone. He's saying that, he's a very busy guy. He's a principal. He basically runs his school, as a principal, and, he's handling business and stuff like that. So he's not really speaking to Brittany while Brittany's unpacking their stuff, getting settled into their, coupled apartment. Because anyways, Kenneth was very much on his phone. Not really engaging into conversations with Brittany. So then later on, we're just gonna continue with this Kenneth and Brittany story. Later on, we get to, another scene of Kenneth and Brittany. And I guess they're having a conversation. And, Brittany's bringing up the part, Kenneth woke her up at 1:30 in the morning, and she had to wake up at 5. And I guess Kenneth was saying he's showing Brittany his love and affection. And, Brittany's just basically voicing that to him, maybe now wasn't the time to do that. But then she also voices that, since we got back, you haven't been present, you haven't been showing me affection, we barely kiss, we barely, do anything touchy-feely stuff, whatever, da-da-da-da. And, Kenneth is just well, I did wake you up, but I'm just that was very much an inopportune time. And the thing is that I guess Brittany was kind of noticing the fact that, he wasn't being cheery or whatever, because I guess she woke up and he didn't wasn't so happy about it or whatever. So Kenneth's like rebuttal's like, it's just one day, like show me some grace, da, 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 da. And it's just like she understands to show him some grace, but I'm just like, your only time that you initiated some type of affection to Brittany was at 1:30 in the morning when she had to wake up at 5. Like after all this time on your honeymoon, and I guess this is your first day back, and this is your only time showing Brittany affection. So I'm just like, I don't know where we like, where do we come from here? But anyway, well, Brittany was basically like telling Kenneth like how she feels like in this relationship, that she's not really receiving like much back at this time and point from him. So Kenneth was just like, well, if you're not feeling that way from me, then maybe this relationship is not going to work out. So therefore, I think we should just part ways. So they hugged, just said like, okay, this is not the best relationship to work out for us. Hugged, he asked her if she was good, and then he left and stayed over at his friend's house. With that being said, I guess he found a way out in that conversation, which I do not believe Brittany was trying to break up with him. She was basically expressing her concerns to Kenneth about how she feels, currently, because they're supposed to talk about how they feel in this situation. And, in the nicest way possible, she's just trying to tell him, you're kind of not really showing me any type of like affection or whatever. With that being said, I feel like the turning point for this with, Kenneth and Brittany was that conversation with AD. When the couples got to see each other for the first time, and, Kenneth finally sees, AD and Claire together, and it's, black love, as they said. And we get to Kenneth and Brittany, and they have a conversation about, when we get to the real world, how are you going to deal with the outside noises on your relationship and stuff like that. And that conversation, literally, that moment that conversation was had, that was a turning point in that relationship. When he even brought it up to Brittany and said like, oh, this is what AD said, and da 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 da, he really was thinking from the night at the beach about that whole conversation, and that's really what shifted, because that's what he was thinking about. Because beforehand, he was really like engaged with Brittany and was really gonna make it work for the both of them, but he checked out then and there. Like from the quiet conversation on the boat ride to like not even, even like embracing Brittany or whatever, that showed you where that relationship was headed. And he really did a 180, and he just kind of just like, I guess, checked out. And when Brittany kind of brought up what was going on, he left. And it's just like, wow, Kenneth and Brittany really had a first half of this whole situation, but it is what it is. They're not going through the relationship. That's basically where it ends for them. And I thought they're gonna be one of the three. There's still gonna be like 3 people going on the altar. I know that for sure. But I thought Kenneth and Brittany was gonna be one of them. But yeah, that's not gonna be happening. So we get to Chelsea and Jimmy. Their whole situation is that Chelsea needs a lot of reassurance, and it's just kind of like even overbearing for the audience. So like, even though Jimmy is kind of like, okay, who is Jimmy? But like, he did have the right to call her clingy, because like, you're doing way too much. Like from the beach, you're crying and being like, oh, well, you didn't show Chelsea any affection. Oh, da 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 da. Then to saying that you didn't kiss Chelsea all day, for Chelsea to say that Jimmy never kissed her all day, and to be so highly upset about being, called clingy. I'm just like, I understand you're upset about being called clingy, but like you're saying you feel sad because Jimmy didn't kiss you the entire day, which Jimmy said like, no, that's not true. Like he even told you like I kissed you twice, on the cheek and like showed you that he cared. And then he does say that he loves, like reassures her that he tells her that he loves her, all that stuff. And Chelsea still feels like unsatisfied by that. So I'm just like, well, what does Chelsea really want? You kind of just feel like we don't really care about Jimmy, but like he does have a point. Like what he said was true. Like she feels very insecure, and I guess I don't know how much reassurance that she needs from the person that she's in a relationship with to feel secure, because Jimmy basically tells her he loves her so many times, and I guess it's just not enough. And I'm just like, what's going on here? Because when her friends were asking like, you guys never kissed? Or she was like, oh no, just for the one day. And I'm just like, are you okay? But anyway, that was like the biggest thing between them, is just like Chelsea just needs a lot of reassurance, and just kind of like it gets very overbearing. Like it's overbearing for Jimmy, let alone the audience. So they have to work through that, because whatever. Then we hear from Jimmy, well, really from Laura and Jessica. Laura and Jessica showed up in this episode, and we hear that Jimmy gets an Instagram, of Jessica from Jeramey, and he saw what Jessica looked like. So I guess that was what's weighing on Chelsea, that, oh, Jessica looks like this, and maybe he's rethinking his decision, And, she was like bringing up Jessica in the argument when that wasn't really needed in the argument at all, because that wasn't what the argument was about at all. She was just thinking that, oh, maybe he's rethinking his decision because he's now seen what Jessica looks like. Anyways, whatever. So Laura and Jessica were having a conversation. Seems like Jessica still likes Jimmy, still has feelings for Jimmy, is what it is, But then Laura's talking about how Sarah Ann sent, Jeramey a DM on Instagram about, she's happy for, him and Laura, but if you're rethinking your decision, let's meet up and have a conversation, So when she took a screenshot of Jeramey's message, because Jeramey actually showed it to Laura and she showed it to Jessica. So while Laura is encouraging Jessica to reach out to Jimmy and to see him again, she's also upset with the fact that I guess Jeramey liked the message on Instagram from Sarah Ann. So it's just like, how are you going to encourage Jessica to meet up with an engaged man, Chelsea, who's with Chelsea, but you're upset that, Sarah Ann, might, meet up with your engaged fiance, your husband to be, Jeramey, for a chat about their relationship. So she feels like some type of way while she was meeting with her parents. She brought that whole situation up to her parents, and it was just like, time and place, but it is what it is. Her parents kind of figured or like noticed how her dynamic with Jeramey is, like, she kind of speaks a little bit harshly, she's kind of like trashing his Hawaiian shirts, like a lot of superficial things, and just like her family members was basically like shutting it down, like, why are you knocking his Hawaiian shirts? Like, it's like, it doesn't even matter. If he loves it, then he loves it, like what it is, like, but it is what it is. They basically try to tell her, like, just leave him alone in his Hawaiian shirts and keep him moving. So then we get back to Clay and AD. They meet Clay's mother and his younger sister, and Clay and AD, we're having conversation about his work schedule, because he's an entrepreneur, he's doing business deals, And, AD is a realtor and also a nightclub, she works the VIP on the nightclub. So with that being said, I guess Clay, for convenience, like he might stay the night on his place for work instead of coming back to the apartment. And, you know, AD feels a type of way about that because just like, you know, you're not showing up, you know, back to their lived shared experience because you're doing it because you want to do your job. And it's just like, I guess the mother, you know, Clay's mother said it really well. It's just like, you know, you guys have to find a balance between your work, but you also have to understand that you make time for the people that you care about. If you really want to do something, you make time for the people that you care about. Like Clay's mother gave words of wisdom and settled that whole situation. Now, the only situation between Johnny and Amy really is the whole children situation. Amy, she is not on, you know, contraceptives, you know, of that nature, you know, to stop, you know, an accidental pregnancy that's kind of hindering their whatever they got going on. So with that being said, you know, Johnny's just like, you know, well, if you're not taking any contraceptives, then like what's going to happen? Like I don't want to have a kid too soon, da, 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 da. And you know, it's just like, okay, if they do find a house and live together, they have, you know, more than enough to take care of a kid if they accidentally do have a kid. But you know, but anyways, that's basically the whole situation, that he doesn't want to have kids too soon, and because he wants to be financially stable in, you know, his relationship and his work life and, you know, whatever, before he has a kid. And you know, that's understandable, that for sure. But you know, he's just like, okay, well, you need to be on this. Well, he didn't like say need to, but he just like, you know, he would like for Amy to use a contraceptive for that to be, you know, not a worry. So that's their like big hurdle that they have to go over in the relationship. But other than that, they're doing well. They seem very well in the relationship. Like, we're really rooting for Amy and Johnny. Like, they're probably like one of the best ones in that relationship to come out of this show. And then we circle back to Laura and Jeramey. So in episode 9, Laura basically is talking to Jeramey, and Jeramey comes home after 5 a.m. That's the day that they're supposed to meet, you know, Jeramey's parents, whatever. So Jeramey went out with his friends, whatever, and then his friend basically told him that Sarah Ann is over here. So he went to meet with Sarah Ann, and he basically said that he hang back with Sarah Ann and basically talked in the parking lot until 5 a.m. and he came home around 6 a.m. So, you know, Laura was so, you know, reasonably upset. She was just like, so you hung back with Sarah Ann until 5 a.m. just talking. So he was like, well, like, you know, I have my location on. If you should, like, I that's so much reassurance. I have my location on. And Laura was just like, so I'm supposed to stay up until 5 a.m. to see your location. So it was so funny because Laura basically smoothly transitioned with just like, so you were just in the parking lot. But she's like, I checked your location and you were where Sarah Ann lives. Like in that location where Sarah Ann lives. So what's tea? So she was reasonably upset. Basically caught Jeramey in a lie that he wasn't in the parking lot the entire night. And he was at Sarah Ann's place, or was like in Sarah Ann's place, whatever. And yeah.
Receipts, proof, timeline, screenshots, everything.
So she gets up, she's upset, she walks off, and she's basically like, she's done. And it's kind of like, that's what relieves Laura and Jeramey. So after this rate, all I know is 3 couples are going to make it through. And I was sure about Amy and Johnny, which is, you know, they're still there. They're still riding with me. Clay and AD, despite all the red flags, I feel like Clay and AD are still going to make it through. Because obviously, I feel like they're still going to make it through despite all the red flags. Okay? Like, despite it all. And then I feel like instead of Kenneth and Britney, because they're donezo, I feel like maybe Jimmy and Chelsea. I mean, that's really the only three so far, because with Laura and Jeramey being on the edge of Dunzo, that's it. There's really only 4 couples left because Kenneth and Brittany are just done. We see the preview for next week's episodes, and we obviously, see who makes it to the altar. We hear Sarah Ann tell one of the girls that, Jeramey's about to end it with Laura. So it's definitely not looking good for them. And I did not see Laura in no wedding dress. So what's going on here? So yeah, about that. We see Jimmy and Jessica meet, but I'm just like, we need to see, Jimmy's reaction to seeing Jessica's face on Instagram. And we also needed to see, Jeramey and Sarah Ann's, first time meeting up together. Because I'm like, how do you have these two, highly level anticipated, reactions, basically off camera. Okay, this is an on-camera experiment, and you have these highly anticipated, on-camera experiences off camera. Like, what is this? What is this? Love is Blind. What is this? But anyways, next week's episode is gonna look even more messier than this week's episodes. Like all I just gotta say, Kenneth really, shook the audience. He had us in the first half, but I feel like the turning point in that relationship was the conversation with AD that really put everything into perspective about how he's going to navigate his relationship with Brittany. I feel like Brittany was very all into working it out and being there for Kenneth if he was able to, try to be a little bit more affectionate and whatnot. But I guess because this is Kenneth's first, Caucasian girlfriend and fiance, I feel like this was not the time for him to, I guess, continue on. But I'm just like, look at Lauren and Cameron. Like, basically, season 1, look at that. And you saying that you couldn't do it yourself? I don't know. But that's Kenneth. He did his 180. He left. He dipped. And he did Brittany kind of dirty. He did Brittany dirty. But at the end of the day, that was episodes 7 through 9. And we're down to 3.5 couples. Okay, 3.5 couples, because Laura and Jeramey are not done yet. But we're down to 3.5 couples out of the 5. So take that as what you will. And we'll see how many of those 3.5 say yes at the altar. But anyway, guys, if you guys like the video, comment down below, let me know your doubts, comments, concerns. You can subscribe to my channel, subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Peace.